The planet Kepler 442c had a violet sky. 2 moons hung in the darkness above like silver coins. On the surface of this distant world, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal, sat a prison unlike any other in the galaxy. Captain Tae-hyun walked through the underground corridors. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. He had been working at this facility for 6 months now. 6 months of guarding something that terrified everyone who knew about it. The facility was called Research Station 7, but everyone knew what it really was. A cage, the biggest, strongest cage ever built. And inside that cage lived Subject Zero. Tae-hyun was 34 years old. He had fought in wars across 3 star systems. He had seen things that would make most people have nightmares. But nothing in his military career had prepared him for this place. The previous security chief had quit after only 2 months. The man said he could not sleep anymore. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the prisoner's cell. He heard sounds that were not really there. So he left and Tae-hyun took his place. Tae-hyun stopped at a security checkpoint. A blue light scanned his face. The heavy door slid open with a hiss. Beyond it lay another corridor, then another checkpoint, then another door. There were 17 security doors between the surface and the prisoner's cell. He had asked his team about Subject Zero when he first arrived. Nobody wanted to talk about it. The alien scientists looked away. The human technicians made excuses to leave. Even the robots seemed to move slower near the containment area. Finally, he read the files himself. What he found was confusing and frightening. Subject Zero had been imprisoned for 217 years. Nobody knew exactly what she was. The oldest alien species in the galaxy, the ones called architects, said she was something from before their time, before their civilization, before their history. The prisoner looked like a young woman, human-shaped with 2 arms and 2 legs, but that was where normal ended. Around her eyes was wrapped an ancient bandage. The fabric was old beyond measure, held in place by crystalline locks that glowed with strange symbols. The file said the bandage must never be removed. It said this in 5 different languages. It repeated the warning 7 times. Reality itself might break, the file warned. The universe might end. Tae-hyun reached the final checkpoint. The observation room. Inside, screens showed every angle of the prisoner's cell. Temperature readings, energy levels, quantum field measurements. 100 different ways to monitor one person. The room was supposed to have 2 guards at all times. But Tae-hyun had noticed something strange. Guards always worked in pairs here. They never entered alone. They acted like the prisoner might reach through the walls and grab them. Today, Tae-hyun was alone. His partner had called in sick. The replacement had not arrived yet. So he sat in the observation room by himself looking at the screens. Subject Zero sat in the center of her cell. She wore restraints made of special metal, the kind used to hold starships in place. Around the cell, invisible fields kept her powers contained. At least that was what the scientists said. Tae-hyun had studied engineering before joining the military. He understood the systems, quantum suppression fields, reality anchors, psychic dampeners. The cell had everything. It would take the combined power of 100 warships to break through these defenses. But as he watched the screens, he saw something that made him lean forward. Something nobody had recorded before. Subject Zero was crying. Tears ran from beneath the bandage, leaving wet trails down her face. She sat perfectly still, but the tears kept coming. Silent. Endless. Tae-hyun felt something twist in his chest. He had seen many prisoners during his military career. Criminals, terrorists, enemies of peace. But he had never seen someone cry like this. So quietly, so hopelessly. Before he could stop himself, he pressed the intercom button. His voice echoed into the cell below. "Hello, my name is Tae-hyun." The prisoner did not move. The tears continued to fall. Tae-hyun knew he was breaking protocol. Guards were not supposed to talk to Subject Zero. The rules were clear. Monitor, record, report, nothing more. But something made him continue. Maybe it was the tears. Maybe it was the fact that this person had been alone for 200 years. Maybe it was because he remembered his sister Ji-won, who died in the war, and her final words to him. See people, not enemies. That was what Ji-won had said. Always try to see the person. So Tae-hyun talked. He told the prisoner about the sunset he had seen on his homeworld of New Seoul. He described the cherry blossom trees that grew there, brought from Earth and changed to survive on alien soil. He talked about his favorite food, kimchi stew, and how his mother made it better than anyone else. Subject Zero did not respond. But after a few minutes, Taehyun noticed something. Her head had turned slightly. Just a small movement, but it was there. She was listening. Over the following weeks, Taehyun returned to the observation room every day. Each time he talked to the prisoner. He never asked questions. He never demanded answers. He simply talked the way someone might talk to a friend. He told her about Earth, about humanity's history, about the mistakes they made and the lessons they learned. He told her about music and art and all the beautiful things people created. Slowly, the prisoner began to change. The tears came less often. She moved her head more as if following his voice. Once, Taehyun thought he saw her lips move, though no sound came out. His colleagues noticed his behavior. They warned him to stop. The facility director, an architect named Velkorian, called him into the office. "Captain, you must cease all communication with Subject Zero." The director's voice was firm. "It is dangerous. We do not know what she is capable of." Taehyun looked at the old alien. Velkorian had lived for 3,000 years. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, but in his ancient eyes Taehyun saw only fear. "With respect, sir," Taehyun said, "she has been here for 200 years. If she wanted to hurt anyone, would she not have done it by now?" "You do not understand." Velkorian's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The seal on her eyes must never break. If it does, if she opens her eyes fully, the consequences would be catastrophic." "What is she?" Taehyun asked. The director looked away. Something that should not exist. Something the universe tried to forget. That night, Taehyun returned to the observation room. He looked at Subject Zero on the screen. She sat in her cell, alone in the darkness, wrapped in chains and fear. He pressed the intercom button one more time. "I do not know what you are. I do not know why they are afraid of you. But I know you are lonely. And I am sorry." For the first time in 217 years, Subject Zero moved more than just her head. She lifted her hand slowly, as much as the restraints allowed, and placed it over her heart. Taehyun understood the gesture. "Thank you," he smiled, even though she could not see him. "You are welcome." Neither of them knew that in 3 days everything would change. An explosion would tear through the facility. The power would fail, and Taehyun would have to make the most important choice of his life. But for now, in this moment, a human and a prisoner sat in companionable silence. And somewhere in the universe, probability itself shifted just a little bit. The explosion happened at 3 a.m. Taehyun was in his quarters when the alarm screamed through the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. The floor shook beneath his feet. He grabbed his uniform and ran. In the command center, chaos reigned. Screens showed fire spreading through the lower levels. A transport carrying volatile materials had crashed during loading. The explosion had torn through 3 levels of the facility. "How many trapped?" Taehyun shouted over the alarms. 37 personnel, a technician answered. "Emergency bulkheads sealed them in. We cannot reach them." Taehyun looked at the facility map. The sealed sections were filling with smoke. They had maybe an hour before the trapped people ran out of air. He started giving orders, organizing rescue teams, planning routes through the damaged corridors. Then another alarm began to sound. This one was different, higher pitched. "More urgent, what is that?" Taehyun demanded. The technician's face went pale. "The containment field, Subject Zero's cell. The backup generators were damaged in the explosion. The field is failing. How long?" 6 hours. Maybe less. The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. If the containment field failed completely, Subject Zero's restraints would overload. The explosion would kill her and possibly destroy the entire facility. The communication system crackled to life. It was Director Velkorian, speaking from a coalition ship in orbit. "Captain Taehyun, you will begin immediate evacuation of all personnel. We are activating the facility's self-destruct sequence." Taehyun felt his blood run cold. "But sir, we have 37 people trapped. We need time to rescue them. There is no time." The director's voice was hard. "Subject Zero cannot be allowed to escape. You have 4 hours to evacuate. After that, the facility will be destroyed." 4 hours was not enough. Taehyun knew it. His team knew it. They would have to choose between saving the trapped personnel or getting everyone else out safely. Taehyun made his decision quickly. Get everyone to the transport. I will lead a team to rescue the trapped personnel. We move fast, we can save them all. For the next 3 hours, Tae-hyun worked harder than he ever had in his life. His rescue team cut through blocked corridors. They bypassed damaged systems. They found the trapped personnel and led them to safety, one group at a time. The facility shook with smaller explosions. Smoke filled the air. But slowly, steadily, they evacuated everyone. Medical staff, scientists, technicians, guards. One by one, the transports lifted off from the surface, carrying them to safety. Finally, with 15 minutes remaining before the self-destruct, Tae-hyun stood in the command center. The facility was empty now. Everyone had escaped. Everyone except him, and Subject Zero Tae-hyun looked at the monitor showing her cell. She sat in the same position as always, wrapped in restraints and darkness. The containment field flickered around her, failing bit by bit. He should leave. The last transport was waiting. In 10 minutes, this entire facility would be turned into dust. It was the logical choice, the safe choice, but Tae-hyun thought about the tears he had seen, the gentle gesture of gratitude, the 217 years of loneliness. He pressed the intercom button one last time. Hello. It is me, Tae-hyun. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then from the speakers came a voice he had never heard before. Soft, ancient, tired. Hello, Tae-hyun. His heart hammered in his chest. You spoke, yes, I have been listening to you. Every day. Every word. You have been kind to me. Why did you never speak before? Because no one ever spoke to me as if I were a person. They spoke at me, about me, but never to me. Until you, Tae-hyun, looked at the countdown. 8 minutes, what is your name? He asked. I was given many names, but the one I chose for myself is Hana. It means one, because I am the last Hana. Tae-hyun repeated the name. It sounded right somehow. What are you? Something old, something the universe no longer needs, something that was sealed away because fear is easier than understanding. They are going to destroy the facility. I know. I can feel the countdown. The failing systems. When the containment field collapses, these restraints will overload. I will die. Her voice held no fear. No anger, only acceptance. Are you afraid? Tae-hyun asked. No. I have been alive for a very long time. Too long, perhaps. I am tired. There was a pause. Then Hana spoke again, softer. But I have one regret. I have been buried underground for 200 years. I have not seen the sky, not seen stars. I would like to see them one more time before the end. Tae-hyun felt something break inside him. It was such a simple request. Such a small thing. To see the sky, he looked at the countdown. 6 minutes. He looked at the monitor showing the path to her cell. 17 security doors, quantum fields. Reality anchors, impossible. But his sister Ji-won had taught him that impossible just meant difficult. That every person deserved to be seen, to be treated with dignity right up to the end. I will come get you, he said. Tae-hyun. No. You will die, maybe, but you will see the sky. He ran from the command center. His fingers flew over control panels, entering emergency override codes. One by one, the security doors opened. Alarms screamed. Warning messages flashed. Far above in orbit, coalition ships detected what he was doing. But Tae-hyun did not stop. He reached the containment level. The quantum suppression fields burned his skin as he pushed through them. The reality anchors made his head spin. But he kept moving. He reached her cell. Through the failing field, he saw Hana. She looked so small, wrapped in those massive restraints. The restraints required a biometric key he did not have. But the damaged systems had created a gap. A brief window where manual release was possible. Tae-hyun's hands moved fast, bypassing circuits, rerouting power. 3 minutes. You should not do this, Hana said. They are right to fear what I am. If the seal on my eyes breaks, if I open them fully, terrible things might happen. Then keep them closed, Tae-hyun said. But you will see the sky. The restraints fell away with a heavy clang. For the first time in 217 years, Hana was free. She tried to stand, but her legs would not hold her. Too many years without movement. Too many years of being held in place. Tae-hyun caught her. He lifted her easily. She weighed almost nothing. Hold on, he said, and ran. He carried her through the corridors, through the security doors, upstairs and ramps. The facility shook around them. Pieces of ceiling fell. Fires burned. But Tae-hyun did not stop. 1 minute he reached an observation deck. The reinforced window showed the violet sky of Kepler 442c. 2 moons hung above, stars scattered across the darkness like diamonds. Tae-hyun set Hana down gently. She knelt before the window, still wearing the bandage over her eyes, and began to cry. I can feel it. The light. The space. The freedom. She whispered. Thank you. Thank you. 30 seconds. Tae-hyun sat beside her. Through the window he could see the transport lifting off without him. He had missed his chance to escape. In half a minute this facility would explode. They would both die. But somehow he felt at peace. He had done the right thing. He had chosen compassion over fear. He had seen the person instead of the threat. I am glad I met you, Hana said. I am glad too, Tae-hyun replied. 10 seconds. Hana turned to him. Even with the bandage covering her eyes, he could feel her looking at him. Would you remove it? She asked. The bandage? Would you let me truly see just once before the end? The question hung in the air between them. Tae-hyun knew what the file said, what the warnings meant. Opening her eyes could destroy reality itself. But he also knew that everyone deserved to be seen. And everyone deserved to see. 5 seconds. Tae-hyun reached for the bandage. Tae-hyun's fingers touched the crystalline locks that held the bandage in place. They should have been impossible to open without special tools. Ancient technology, harder than diamond. But the moment his skin made contact, they simply dissolved. Like ice melting in the sun. He unwrapped the bandage slowly. Layer after layer of ancient fabric fell away. The countdown reached 0. The facility's self-destruct sequence activated. Somewhere deep below, explosives detonated. But the explosion seemed to happen in slow motion, as if time itself was holding its breath. Tae-hyun removed the final layer. He looked at Hana's face, truly saw it for the first time. Where her eyes should be, there were not eyes. There were universes. 2 points of infinite depth stared back at him. Not black holes, not empty voids, but white spaces that contained every color that had ever existed or would ever exist. Looking into them, Tae-hyun saw stars being born. Galaxies dying, the threads of probability weaving through reality like an endless tapestry. He should have been destroyed instantly. The Coalition's research said that seeing what lay beneath the bandage would drive any mortal being insane. The human mind was not built to perceive such things, but Tae-hyun simply stood there. He looked into the eyes of something that existed before existence, and he felt no fear, no madness. Only wonder how, Hana whispered. How are you still standing? I do not know, Tae-hyun said honestly. You are beautiful. Hana opened her eyes fully. The observation deck, the exploding facility, the entire planet seemed to freeze. The detonation that should have vaporized them simply stopped. Flames hung motionless in the air. Falling debris paused mid-fall. Tae-hyun, Hana said, I need to tell you what I am. What I truly am. She stood, and for the first time she moved with confidence. The weakness from centuries of restraint vanished. She looked at him with those universe-filled eyes. I am not a person. Not really. I am what the old civilizations called a probability engine. One of 3 beings created at the moment the universe was born. My siblings and I existed to maintain reality, to ensure that cause followed effect, that physics remained stable, that existence itself did not collapse into chaos. Tae-hyun listened, trying to understand. For billions of years we did our work. We were happy. But then civilizations rose. Species evolved. They learned about us, and they became afraid. Why afraid? Tae-hyun asked. Because we had power. Power to change probability itself. They feared what would happen if someone controlled us. If someone corrupted us. If someone used us as weapons. So the ancient species decided we were too dangerous to exist freely. Hana's voice grew sad. They hunted us. One of my siblings, the oldest, fought back. The battle destroyed entire star clusters. Thousands of worlds burned. So they killed him. And his death sent shockwaves through reality. Even now, there are places in the universe where probability does not work correctly because of what happened. What about the third one? My sister, she vanished. Hid herself in dimensions beyond this reality. I have not heard from her in millions of years. I do not know if she still exists, and you? I chose differently. I did not want to fight. I did not want more destruction. So when they came for me, I let them seal me. I wore the bandage willingly. I hoped that by accepting imprisonment I could prevent more death. That was 200 years ago? No, that was millions of years ago. The first time. The bandage has been placed and removed many times through history. Each time a civilization found me, they sealed me again. The current seal is only 200 years old. Taehyun felt his head spin. Millions of years of imprisonment, of being feared and hidden away. But now, Hana continued, with the seal broken, my full power returns. She raised her hand. Reality rippled around them. The frozen explosion began to move again, but backward. The flames retreated. The debris flew back to where it had come from. The damaged facility repaired itself in reverse. Within moments, the facility was whole again. The explosion had never happened. The fires had never burned. The trapped personnel appeared safe on the surface, relocated without even knowing they had been in danger. You are fixing things, Taehyun said with wonder. Yes. The coalition was wrong. The restraints were not protecting the galaxy from me. They were preventing me from doing my purpose. Without my work, reality becomes unstable. Probability drifts. Impossible things happen. The universe needs me. Across the planet, Kepler 442c changes rippled outward. A barren moon suddenly bloomed with life. Plants grew where there had been only dust. Water appeared in dried valleys. A dying star in the system reignited, burning with new strength. Hana was not destroying. She was creating, healing, fixing the damage that centuries of suppression had caused. In orbit, coalition warships detected the massive power surge. Alarms rang across every vessel. Sensors went wild. The crews panicked. They recognized the signature. A probability engine had awakened. The fleet commander gave the order to fire. Destroy the planet. Kill the engine before it could destroy them all. Weapons charged. Targeting systems locked on. But then something strange happened. The weapons simply would not fire. Not because they were broken, but because Hana had changed the probability. The chance of the weapons firing had become 0. The chance of communication channels opening had become 100%. Across 1,000 coalition worlds, a memory awakened. Every species, every civilization, suddenly remembered what they had forgotten. The truth about the probability engines, why they existed, what they truly were. The architects were the first to understand. Their ancient leader, Valkorion, stood on the bridge of his ship and wept. He broadcast a message to the entire fleet: stand down. We were wrong. We have been wrong for millions of years. Forgive us. One by one, the warships powered down their weapons. One by one, the coalition species began to remember the truth. The probability engines had never been threats. They had been guardians, protectors of reality itself. On the surface of Kepler 442c, Taehyun and Hana stood together on the observation deck. Through the window, the violet sky stretched endlessly, but now it looked different somehow. More vibrant, more real. You are still here, Hana said, looking at him with wonder. Still sane, still whole. How? Taehyun shrugged. I do not know. Maybe because I am human? Hana tilted her head, studying him. She reached out with her power, examining him on a level beyond physical. What she found made her gasp. That is exactly it. You are human. Your species is different. Different how? Most species evolved in stable environments, predictable weather, consistent conditions. They built civilizations based on certainty. They need to know what will happen. They fear the unknown. But humans evolved in chaos. Hana smiled. It was the first time Taehyun had seen her smile. Your planet Earth changed constantly. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, floods, earthquakes, nothing was ever stable. So humans learned to live with uncertainty, to think in terms of possibilities instead of certainties. You do not just tolerate chaos. You thrive in it. Is that why I can look at you? Yes, when other species see me, they see the infinite. Their minds try to calculate every possibility at once. They try to find certainty where there is none. It breaks them. But when you look at me, your mind simply accepts the infinite. You see possibilities, not problems. Taehyun thought about this. It made a strange kind of sense. Humans had always been good at dealing with uncertainty, at making decisions without perfect information, at comfortable not knowing. Ships began landing on the surface. The coalition was sending representatives. They wanted to meet Hana, to apologize, to understand. But Hana had one condition. Taehyun must be there. He must represent humanity, the species that freed her, the species that saw her as a person instead of a weapon. Within days, beings from all 47 member species of the Coalition gathered on Kepler 442c, ancient species who had existed for millions of years. Young civilizations barely 1,000 years old, all coming together to witness history. Taehyun stood before them all, a simple soldier who had acted on compassion and instinct. And beside him stood Hana, a being of infinite power who had been imprisoned for being what she was born to be. Director Velkorian approached them. The ancient architect knelt before Hana. His voice trembled as he spoke. "We apologize. For millions of years we have treated you as a threat. We imprisoned you. We suppressed you. We feared you. And in our fear we became the true threat. We nearly destroyed the very thing that keeps reality stable." Hana looked at him with those universe-filled eyes. "I forgive you. Fear is natural. But choosing to overcome fear, that is what makes beings truly civilized." She turned to Taehyun. This human understood that. When everyone else saw a monster, he saw a person. When everyone else chose fear, he chose compassion. "That is why I am free today," the gathered species murmured among themselves. They looked at Taehyun with new respect. And they looked at humanity with new understanding. Perhaps one of the elder species said, "Humans have something to teach us all." And as the sun set on Kepler 442c, painting the violet sky in shades of gold and purple, a new era began. An era where fear gave way to understanding, where compassion proved stronger than caution, and at the center of it all stood a human and a god, friends despite everything that should have made friendship impossible. The gathering on Kepler 442c lasted for 3 days. Representatives from every coalition species came to witness the awakened probability engine. They came with fear, but they left with understanding. On the second day, Hana addressed the full assembly. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in the massive amphitheater that had been constructed overnight. The structure seemed to grow from the ground itself, shaped by probability into a perfect meeting place. Hana stood at the center. Taehyun stood beside her. She had asked him to remain close, saying his presence made her feel safer. He found this strange, considering she had the power to reshape reality, but he understood. Power did not erase loneliness. Strength did not mean you stopped needing friends. "I want to explain something," Hana began. Her voice carried across the amphitheater without needing amplification. "In 200 years of imprisonment, only one being treated me with kindness. Only one being saw past the fear and recognized that I was a person, not a weapon." She gestured to Taehyun. "That being was human, and I have discovered why." The assembly leaned forward, listening. Humans are different, not stronger, not more intelligent, but different in a way that matters. They possess a natural resistance to probability manipulation. When I look at most species with my full power, their minds cannot handle what they see. The infinite possibilities destroy them. But humans, they simply look at the infinite and think, "That is interesting." Murmurs spread through the crowd. This was a revelation. Humans, the relative newcomers to galactic civilization, had a unique gift that the oldest species lacked. "Your species evolved in uncertainty," Hana continued. "Your planet taught you to accept that the future cannot always be predicted, that plans can change, that sometimes you must act without knowing the outcome. Most species fear this, but humans embrace it, and that makes you uniquely qualified to interact with beings like me." The Coalition High Council held an emergency session that evening. Taehyun was summoned to attend. He walked into the chamber wearing his simple military uniform, surrounded by beings who had shaped galactic history for millennia. "Captain Taehyun," the council speaker said, "we owe your species an apology, and we owe you our gratitude. You did what none of us had the courage to do." "I did what felt right," Taehyun replied simply. "That is precisely why we must recognize humanity's contribution." The speaker stood. "Effective immediately, humanity will be granted a permanent seat on the Coalition High Council. You will have equal voice with the founding species." The chamber erupted in agreement. Species that had existed for millions of years voted unanimously to elevate humanity to their level. Furthermore, the speaker continued, "Humans will serve as primary liaisons for any future encounters with probability-based entities or dimensional anomalies. Your unique psychological resilience makes you invaluable to the Coalition." Taehyun felt overwhelmed. He was just a soldier. He had acted on instinct and compassion. He never expected this. The council asked him to speak, to share his perspective. He stood before them nervous but determined. My sister Ji-won died in the frontier wars. Before she died, she told me something important. She said the universe is big enough for everyone. We just have to be brave enough to see each other. Taehyun looked around the chamber. Humans learned a hard lesson in our history. We once feared each other because we looked different, spoke different languages, believed different things. We fought terrible wars because of these fears. We almost destroyed ourselves. What saved us was realizing that fear of the unknown is natural, but giving into that fear is a choice. The unknown is not the enemy. The enemy is refusing to try to understand. I freed Hana because I chose to see her loneliness before my own fear. I saw her as a person who had been denied freedom for something she could not control. That is all I did. That is all any of us should do. The chamber was silent. Then slowly beings began to stand. One by one, they rose in a gesture of respect that transcended species. Even the most ancient, the most powerful, acknowledged the wisdom in his words. That night, Taehyun walked with Hana through the new gardens that had appeared on Kepler 442c. She had reshaped the barren landscape into something beautiful. Trees grew tall. Flowers bloomed in colors that did not exist in nature before. Water flowed in streams that sang as they moved. You changed everything, Hana said. Not just for me. For everyone. I did not mean to, Taehyun replied. I just wanted to help you see the sky. That is what makes it meaningful. You did not act for glory or reward. You acted because it was right. They sat by one of the singing streams. The violet sky above showed both moons and countless stars. What will you do now? Taehyun asked. You are free. You can go anywhere. Hana looked thoughtful. I need to find my sister. The third probability engine. She vanished millions of years ago to escape persecution, but reality needs all three of us working together to be truly stable. Where is she? Hidden in a place where probability breaks down, a region of space so unstable that most ships cannot survive there. I can feel her presence, but reaching her will be dangerous. Taehyun looked at her. Then I will go with you. Hana shook her head. No. It is too dangerous. The probability storms could kill you. Maybe, but you said humans can handle uncertainty better than other species. Maybe that will help. Why would you risk your life for this? Taehyun smiled. Because you are my friend. And friends help each other. The simplicity of his answer made Hana's eyes glow brighter. In all her endless existence, no one had ever called her friend so easily. So naturally, the coalition approved the expedition within a week. They built a special ship for the mission. They called it the Probability's Edge, designed to navigate the unstable regions where Hana's sister was hidden. The crew was mostly human. Taehyun was given command. His second officer was Lieutenant Dae-jung, an old friend from his military days. The chief engineer was a young woman named Bo-ra, brilliant and creative. The science officer was Dr. Young-mi, who had spent years studying quantum mechanics. On the day of departure, crowds gathered to watch the ship launch. It was strange, Taehyun thought, how much had changed in such a short time. Weeks ago, he was just a security captain guarding a prison. Now he was commanding an expedition that could reshape reality itself. News of his actions had spread across human worlds. On Earth and her colonies, people spoke of him with pride. He had become a symbol of humanity's best qualities: compassion, courage, the willingness to see the person instead of the threat. A memorial was built, honoring his sister Ji-won and all, who died believing in the power of understanding over fear. Taehyun visited it before leaving. He stood before her name carved in stone and whispered a promise. I am still trying to see people, not enemies. I hope I make you proud. On the bridge of the Probability's Edge, Taehyun gave the order to launch. The ship lifted from Kepler 442c's surface, carrying a crew of humans and one probability engine on a journey into the unknown. Hana stood beside him, looking at the stars ahead. For the first time in millions of years, she felt hope, not just for herself, but for all beings. Humans had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That kindness could be stronger than fear. That compassion could change reality itself. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, Taehyun thought about probability. The chance that he would be assigned to that facility. The chance that he would speak to Hana. The chance that his simple act of kindness would awaken a god and change the course of history. All of it should have been impossible. But then again, humans had always excelled at making the impossible happen. The probability-warped region lay ahead, a place where space and time did not follow normal rules, where cause and effect broke down, where most ships that entered never returned. But Tae-hyun was not worried. He had Hana beside him. He had a crew of brave humans who chose adventure over safety. And he had learned that sometimes the impossible just needed someone willing to try. The probability's edge crossed into impossible space. Reality twisted around them. The laws of physics became suggestions rather than rules, but the ship held steady, guided by human determination and the power of a being who controlled probability itself. Somewhere ahead, lost in dimensions beyond normal space, waited the third probability engine. Waiting to be found, waiting to come home. And behind them, across 1,000 coalition worlds, beings looked up at the stars and thought about probability differently. They thought about possibilities instead of certainties. They thought about what might happen if they chose understanding over fear. Change was coming to the galaxy. And it all started because one human chose to see a person instead of a threat. Because one soldier decided that everyone deserved kindness, even when kindness seemed foolish. The universe was big enough for everyone. Tae-hyun was proving it, one choice at a time. The probability-warped region was like nothing Tae-hyun had ever seen. Through the view screen of the probability's edge, space itself looked broken. Stars appeared and disappeared. Time ran backward in some places, forward in others. Colors that should not exist painted the void in impossible shades. The crew held steady despite the chaos outside. Bora monitored the engines, making constant adjustments to keep them stable. Dr. Young-mi tracked the probability fluctuations, trying to find patterns in the madness. Lieutenant Dae-jung coordinated the bridge crew, his calm voice keeping everyone focused. And Hana stood at the center of the bridge, her universe-filled eyes tracking something the instruments could not measure. She was following a connection only she could feel. The bond between probability engines that stretched across dimensions. "She is close," Hana said. "My sister. I can feel her presence growing stronger. Can you communicate with her?" Tae-hyun asked. "Not yet. She has hidden herself so deeply that even I struggle to reach her. She is afraid. After millions of years alone, she does not trust that it is safe to come out." The ship shuddered as they passed through a probability storm. For a moment, everyone on the bridge existed in multiple states at once. Tae-hyun saw himself as a child, as an old man, as someone who had never been born. Then reality snapped back and they were whole again. Several crew members looked shaken, but none of them panicked. They were human. They accepted the impossible and kept working. "This is amazing," Dr. Young-mi said, studying her instruments with excitement rather than fear. "We are witnessing quantum events at a macro scale. This should not be possible." "Nothing here follows normal rules," Bora added. "The engines are working based on probability rather than physics. I am not driving the ship. I am suggesting where it might want to go." Days passed in the warped region. Or maybe hours. Time did not work properly here. The crew adapted. They trusted each other. They trusted Hana. And most of all, they trusted Tae-hyun's judgment. He had proven that choosing compassion over fear could change reality. If anyone could reach the lost probability engine and bring her home, it was him. Finally, they found her. At the center of the probability-warped region floated a pocket dimension, a bubble of stable space surrounded by infinite chaos. And within that bubble, alone and isolated, sat the third probability engine. She appeared younger than Hana, a girl who looked no older than 15 in human years. But her eyes held the weight of eons. Like Hana, she had universes where eyes should be, but hers looked dimmer somehow. Tired, sad. Hana reached out with her power. "Sister, it is me. It is safe now. You can come home." The girl's response came not in words but in emotions. Fear, doubt, the memory of being hunted, the terror of watching their brother die. "I know you are afraid," Hana said gently. "I was afraid too, for millions of years. But something has changed. Someone showed me that not all beings fear what they do not understand." The girl looked at the ship, at the human crew. Her eyes focused on Tae-hyun. Tae-hyun felt her gaze pierce through him. She was examining him on every level, seeing all the choices he had made, all the kindness he had shown. The moment he decided to free Hana despite the danger, He did not look away. He met her universal gaze with simple human determination. And he spoke aloud, knowing she would hear. You do not have to hide anymore. The galaxy has changed. We learned that fear creates more problems than it solves. You are not a threat. You are needed. The girl studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. You are brave, little human. Or perhaps foolish. I cannot tell which, maybe both, Taehyun replied. But I know what it feels like to be alone. And I know that nobody should have to hide forever just because others are afraid. The bubble of stable space around her began to dissolve. She was letting go of her hiding place, trusting that the universe had truly changed. She materialized on the bridge of the probability's edge. The crew gasped but held their ground. They had learned from Taehyun's example. Do not fear, understand. What is your name? Taehyun asked. I chose the name Nari, the girl said. It means lily, a flower that grows in difficult places but remains beautiful. Nari looked at Hana, her sister. The only family she had left in all the universe. They embraced, and for a moment the ship's instruments went wild. The reunion of two probability engines created ripples across reality itself. Across the galaxy, beings felt the change. Reality became more stable. Quantum fluctuations calmed. Probability storms that had raged for millennia suddenly dissipated. The universe itself sighed with relief. Two of the three probability engines were reunited. And they were no longer alone. They had friends, allies, a galaxy that had learned to choose understanding over fear. The journey home took weeks. Nari marveled at everything. She had been hidden for so long that the galaxy she remembered no longer existed. New species had risen. Old empires had fallen. And everywhere beings had learned to live together despite their differences. She was especially fascinated by humans. She spent hours talking with the crew, asking questions about Earth, about their history, about how they learned to overcome their own fears and prejudices. You are remarkable, she told Taehyun one evening. Most species that achieve space travel do so because they conquered their differences. But humans, you reached the stars while still learning to accept each other. That makes you stronger, not weaker. Taehyun shrugged. We are not perfect. We still make mistakes, but we try to learn from them. That is all any being can do, Nari replied. Try, learn, grow. When the probability's edge returned to coalition space, they were greeted as heroes. The entire galaxy celebrated, not just the return of the probability engines, but what their return represented. A new era of understanding, a time when fear gave way to curiosity. When difference was embraced rather than suppressed, a ceremony was held on Kepler 442c. The planet had become a symbol of change. Where Hana had been imprisoned, now she lived freely. Where fear had reigned, now hope flourished. Taehyun was offered countless honors, medals, promotions, political positions. He declined them all. He did not want fame or power. He simply wanted to continue doing what felt right. Instead, he accepted a different role. He became the official liaison between humanity and the probability engines. He would help Hana and Nari navigate the complex politics of the coalition. He would teach other species how humans had learned to embrace uncertainty. And he would search for their lost brother. The first probability engine, supposedly destroyed millions of years ago, but Hana and Nari believed he might still exist somewhere. Perhaps hidden like Nari had been. Perhaps transformed into something new. If he was out there, they would find him. And they would show him that the galaxy had changed. 1 year after freeing Hana, Taehyun stood on the observation deck of Research Station 7. The facility had been rebuilt, but now it was a university rather than a prison. Beings from across the galaxy came here to study probability physics, to learn from the engines, to understand the fundamental nature of reality. Hana and Nari stood beside him, looking at the violet sky. In the distance, one of the moons was setting. Stars filled the darkness above. Thank you, Hana said quietly. For everything. You already thanked me, Taehyun replied with a smile. I know, but I want to thank you again. You gave me back my life, my sister, my purpose. You showed me that the universe is not just a place of fear and isolation. It can be a place of friendship and hope. Nari nodded. You changed everything. Not just for us, for everyone. The galaxy is better because you chose compassion over fear. Taehyun looked at them both. Two beings of infinite power, two gods who could reshape reality with a thought, and they called him friend. I just did what my sister taught me, he said. See the person, not the threat. That is all. That is everything, Hana replied. In the months and years that followed, the galaxy continued to change. Human psychology and philosophy became required study for all coalition species. Educational exchanges flourished. Beings learned to embrace uncertainty rather than fear it. Probability-based technologies advanced rapidly with Hana and Nari's help. Ships that could navigate impossible space. Medical treatments that worked by adjusting probability. Energy systems that drew power from quantum fluctuations. But more important than the technology was the change in thinking. Species that had been enemies for centuries learned to talk to each other. Ancient grudges were set aside. Fear gave way to curiosity. And at the center of it all was the simple truth that Taehyun had demonstrated. Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves compassion. Everyone deserves the chance to prove they are more than what others fear them to be. Taehyun never forgot his sister Jiwon. He visited her memorial regularly. He told her about everything that had happened. About Hana and Nari. About the changes sweeping through the galaxy. About how her words had shaped everything. The universe is big enough for everyone. You were right. On quiet evenings, Taehyun would sit with Hana and Nari watching the stars. They talked about everything and nothing. Philosophy, art, music, the nature of existence. Human jokes that made no sense but were funny anyway. They were friends. Not human and God. Just friends. And somewhere in the vast universe, the first probability engine felt his sister's joy. He felt the change in reality. The shift from fear to hope. And slowly,